Hello, and welcome back to my gear garage. I very often hear the same question asked over and over and over again, especially from new hikers who are just kind of dipping their toes into this adventure. And I thought it would be fun to do a series of videos where I take each one of those questions and just do a deep dive into them and clear up any questions anybody might have on a particular subject. In that spirit, today I want to talk about how I pack my backpack for an average backpacking trip. There are obviously going to be differences depending on the season and the weather conditions, but in the loosest, most general terms, this is how I pack my backpack. Now, before I even put the first piece of gear in, there are a couple of things that I consider right out of the gate. Primarily comfort and convenience. Now, when I'm talking about comfort, I'm talking about on-trail comfort. When you're out on a backpacking trip, you're carrying everything you need to survive and be comfortable for the duration of your trip. You can pack your pack in a way that would cause you pretty significant discomfort on the trail. You could cause yourself to have hot spots on your hip belt, hot spots on your shoulder belt. And so I want to kind of go over some ways, best practices, essentially, to mitigate any unnecessary pain you could be causing yourself while backpacking. When I pack my bag, I like to think of it as having 4 zones. On the interior of the pack, you have the bottom zone, you have the middle zone, and you have the top zone. And then that 4th zone is all your exterior pockets, your front pocket, your side pockets, your hip belt pocket, any additional storage you might have that isn't within the main body of the pack. Best practice kind of dictates that you put sort of the lightest, most compressible items towards the bottom of the pack. You put the heaviest items in the middle of the pack, and then whatever's left over goes towards the top or on those exterior pockets. And that is essentially the system that I follow. So when I am considering which zone to put a specific piece of gear into my pack, convenience comes into play too. You have to ask yourself, is this item something that I'm only going to use at camp? Is this something that I'm going to want access to on trail? And if it is something I want access to on trail, how frequently do I need to access it? And all of those factors come together to determine where in your pack it goes. So for a typical average backpacking trip for me, the first thing that goes into my backpack is either my quilt or sleeping bag, whichever one I happen to be carrying on that trip. I don't use stuff sacks for my sleep system. I'll just shove the quilt or the sleeping bag all the way down to the bottom, mush it around so it takes up any available space in that lowest section of that bottom part of the backpack. Just fill every void in with as much of that quilt or sleeping bag as you can. Then on top of my quilt and sleeping bag, I will put my sleeping pad, my pillows. If I'm carrying a bag liner, that'll go in there. And then on top of all of that, I will put my shelter. And then on top of the shelter, I'll typically put my Tyvek ground sheet. One quick change to that. If I am dealing with significant precipitation and I know I'm going to have a lot of really bad weather, I will put my tent on this big outside pocket here on my Waymark light. And the reason I do that is because my tent is all one piece. The rain fly and the liner are all one piece, so I can set it up in a downpour and not get any moisture on the inner part of the tent. So my living space is completely dry even though I have set the tent up in the pouring rain. I like to do that because I can just grab the shelter without opening the pack, set up the shelter, move my backpack into my vestibule, and unpack the rest of it there so none of the other stuff on the inside of the pack gets wet either. That may or may not work for you depending on the kind of shelter you have and depending on the size of your exterior pockets. But with my Xmid and my Waymark Lite 50, that system works really, really well for me. So once my sleep system is stowed away properly, the next thing I put in is either my food bag or bear can. And these days, 90% of the time I'm carrying a bear can, largely because most of the places I go hiking either require them or have a significant enough bear population that I just feel better having the can versus having a bag and having to try to find some place to hang that bag. When I put my Bearcan in my bag, I will always put it vertically, and I'll keep the lid only kind of loosely screwed on. The reason I do that is so when I stop for a snack or when I stop for lunch on trail, I can just twist the top off and grab what I need from the Bearcan without pulling it out of my backpack, without unpacking my entire bag on the side of the trail and having what my buddy Brian and I like to call a yard sale. I want to keep as much of my stuff in my pack as I can so that when the break is over, it's very quick to just put a handful of things back in, throw the pack on, and get moving down the trail again. So once I have the Bearcan in there, the next thing I'll put in is the clothing that I'll need on trail specifically. Typically, I will carry most of my clothes in a bag like this. Now, this is all the stuff I need at camp. This is my base layers for sleeping in, my gloves, my beanie, things like that. So this will go in first, and I'll push it down behind the Bearcan. So basically between the back pad of my pack and the Bearcan, to give some extra cushioning so the Bearcan's not poking me in the back, but it also keeps the Bearcan from shifting in my pack. It holds it in place really, really tightly. Next, I'll put any mid-layer that I might need while hiking. If the temperature drops significantly, or if I end up hiking at night and I want to have some extra insulation just to keep me warm while I'm moving, I want that pretty close to the top of the pack, so I can just open the pack, grab the layer that I need, put that on. And again, I will tuck that in and around that Bearcan to give it some extra stability and keep it from just jabbing me in the back. The last piece of clothing that I'll put on the top there is my rain gear. And that is something that you want quick and easy access to. If you're out on the trail and the weather takes a turn for the worse, you want to be able to grab that rain jacket or those rain pants right away. So those are the last thing that go right on top of my Bearcan. Then on top of the clothing, I'll put any little small like ditty bags. I'll have my electronics bag, this right here. So I've got my backup battery, my headlamp, things like that. If I need to charge my phone on the trail, or I'm out hiking after dark and I need quick access to my headlamp, it's all right here on the very top of the pack. The first thing when I open up that roll top is my electronics bag and my other ditty bag, which has like my first aid kit. I'll have any patches that I need, you know, if I'm bushwhacking and I rip a hole in my jacket or I rip a hole in my pants or something like that. I've got these little pre-cut pieces of tenacious tape that are right in here. And again, they're just very convenient right at the top of my pack. Open the roll top, grab what I need, make the repair, put it back, and I'm good to go. Now on the exterior zone of my pack, I'm gonna put the things that I want on trail, but that I need access to very frequently. So I'll have my bathroom kit, my sunscreen, my water filter, things like that. Those will all go on that mesh back pocket. So I can just very quickly slide the pack off, grab what I need, do my business, put everything back in, and I'm good to just hit the trail again running without having spent a ton of time on whatever task it was that I needed to accomplish in that moment. Most of the time, my side pockets are occupied by my water bottles. Again, this is something that you want quick and frequent access to while you're on the trail. Those side pockets are perfect for holding your water bottles. Lastly, let's talk about my hip belt pouch. My hip belt pouch almost always contains a couple of snack bars, something I can eat while moving down the trail and not have to stop and have like a full break. I can just grab, you know, a couple hundred calories real quick while I'm still in motion. And I also put my sunglasses case in there. And the reason I like to have such quick access to that is I very frequently have to switch back and forth between my sunglasses and my actual glasses that I need for seeing. I know I could get prescription sunglasses. I know that that's a thing that can happen, but I break sunglasses so frequently that it just makes so much more sense for me to have just some cheap convenience store. You know, I think I got these for free on some promotion or something. So if I break these, I don't really care. If I break a pair of prescription sunglasses, I'm probably going to be a little bit bummed out. Now, there are a handful of items I obviously didn't mention. I didn't talk about where my cook kit goes. I didn't talk about where my coffee mug or things like that go. And that is all kind of trip dependent. If I'm carrying the smaller of the 2 bear cans, I will usually put the cook kit kind of down on the side there or right on top of the bear can. If I have to carry the big bear can, if I'm out 3, 4, 5 days at a time and I need that larger bear can, my cook kit will go on that back mesh pocket. And it's one of those items where it's necessary, at least in the way that I backpack. I know a lot of people don't cook food on trail, but I do. And it's also kind of cumbersome and awkward. So you just kind of have to find the most convenient spot for it. My cook kit is fairly light. I use a titanium pot and an MSR pocket rocket. Doesn't take up a lot of weight per se, so it's not, I don't have to worry about it throwing off my center of gravity or throwing off my balance or anything like that. But it's big enough that it occupies a significant amount of space. So typically, once I have everything packed, I'll just find the easiest spot to shove my cook kit. Well, I hope that cleared up all of the questions you have about how to pack your backpack. If you have any additional questions that I didn't answer in this video, drop them down below in the comments. If you pack your pack differently and you have a really good reason why, I would love to hear about it. Drop that down in the comments as well. I'm fairly confident everybody watching this knows how to use YouTube. So if you found some value in the video and you want to like it, awesome. If you found some value in other content on the channel and you want to subscribe, awesome. If you don't and you just wanted to watch this one particular video, also awesome. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you being here and supporting the channel in whatever way you see fit. And we will talk again soon.